I want to do a quick video on the King's timeline and also Esther's year of preparation. It appears that a lot of you are still kind of confused about this, and I do all these videos to explain it, but I'm gonna put all these timepieces that I have here, and I'm gonna go over again. I'm gonna try and do it as simple as possible, guys, and go over this. It's so critical you get this and understand. I'm not setting dates. I'm not saying in my mind a preconceived date this has got to happen. I'm just reading this information, and this is the information we're getting. So let's get into it, guys. First thing is Daniel 9 says, unto the Messiah the Prince there shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. Now, a week, that word week in the Hebrew is often used for the Feast of Weeks. And if we consider 1948, the decree, think about it. We got 1948 plus 62. And what do we have? 2010. That's exactly when this starts. The Lamb sits on the throne in the fall of 2010. That's this point right here. And then what happens is there is a cycle of 14 years. So the king sits, he reigns 3.5 years. Then you have 3.5 years of the seals. You have 3.5 years of the trumpets. And you have 3.5 years of the bowls. Okay? Now it also says that there is 62 weeks and 7 weeks. So if we take 2010 plus 7, that brings us to 2017. Okay? Very simple. This is when the first 7 years is, when the Lamb sat. And this is the beginning of the Great Tribulation. Both of which are in the fall. Okay? Now, let's also read Esther. And in Esther, we find out this information I'm telling you. Okay? So in those days, when the king Artaxerxes sat on the throne, so King Artaxerxes in this case is a type of shadow of the Yeshua, Lord Jesus Christ, sat on the throne, which was at Shushan, the palace, in the 3rd year of his reign. Okay, see that? So in the 3rd year, so this is after this point, so we have the 3rd year of his reign. In the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast unto the princes and servants and power of Persia, and for the nobles and princes, and when he showed the riches and the glories in his kingdom and honor of his excellent majesty many days, even 180 days, or 180 days. So now what you have is you have 3 years, because this happened in the 3rd year. Now you have 180 days. All right. Now 180 days is 6 months. So now what you have is really 3.5 years. 3.5 years. All right. Now it says later on the 7th day. Okay. Now if you look at 180, and remember this is 180 is the last, is the end. So it's already been 3 years. Now it's another 6 months. But look at it as a cycle, guys. And it's the 7th 180-day period. Now, if you multiply 180 by 7, that's 1,260 days. Okay? You see why I keep saying 1,260 days? Well, that's days. Okay? Which is also 3.5 years. Okay? So, very clearly, from Esther 1, you can see the king reigns 3rd year, then after which there's feast, 180 days, then he calls Vashti. Also, let's talk about this, also the Vashti the queen made a feast for the women of the royal house, which belonged to the king. Okay? Vashti is the mother of harlots. And every single religious system that you guys are in, she's running. And you refused, you just like Vashti, refused the king's command on this, to bring Vashti, the queen, before the king with the royal crown, to show the people and the princess the beauty of her. She was beautiful to look upon, but the queen, Vashti, refused to come at the king's command and by his chamberlains, and the king was very angry, and his anger burned within him. So guys, that's you. You refuse the king's command, and then what happens is you have the 7 archangels. So these are the 7 church angels here. 7 archangels, and then what happens is the king is angry and he divorces Vashti, and he divorced you as well. You can see that in Jeremiah, but he's going to restore the bride. So after these things, when the wrath of the king was appeased, he remembered Vashti and what she had done and decreed against her. Okay, so then they decide to get another queen. Now they do that, and Esther is prepared. And so it came to pass at the king's command, his decree was heard, and many maidens were gathered together. That's what I'm doing. I'm gathering together virgins at Shushan, in the palace, in the custody, and Esther was brought also. Now Esther is prepared for 1 year. All right, so that year is year 6, because it takes her 1 year to get ready. So it takes her 1 year to get ready. Then, in the 7th year, she's brought before the king. Okay? So let's remember, we started with 3.5 years. Vashti refused the king's command. He divorced Vashti. He divorced us because we refused his command. Then we have year 6. And we have 1 year to get ready. Okay? So guys, at the time I'm recording this video, it is the 4th month and 15th day. We have exactly 2 months. 1 month, 2 months. This is Esther's year right here, the 6th month and 15th day. All right? And so we have 2 months, guys. We have 2 months to get ready before this year begins. Then she is brought before the king in the 7th year. All right? Now, let's look at that here, because everything that we just read lines up perfectly with the seals and the blood moons. So what happened is, this is the feast, 180 days right here. These are 3.5 years. 3.5 years, this period. Then the king is angry. And then it talks about his wrath. Well, the wrath is the horse riders. And the horse riders directly line up with the blood moons. So we have the blood moons, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? Now the thing with the blood moons is you'll see blood moon 1, blood moon 2, blood moon 3, blood moon 4. The Lord said, when the sign of the Son of Man, you'll see the sun turn to sackcloth and the moon turn to blood. So here is a solar eclipse, the sun turning to sackcloth. That happened 2 weeks prior to the 3rd blood moon. And the moon turned to blood, okay? Then it happens again. And again, this is the 4th blood moon. But 2 weeks prior, there was a solar eclipse, blood moon. Then what you have is this pattern continues into 2016. Solar eclipse, lunar eclipse. This is not a blood moon. It's not a full lunar eclipse, partial. And then there's another one, solar eclipse and lunar eclipse. Now the way you do this is by the Enoch calendar, because in the Enoch calendar, in the 1st month and in the 7th month, all these line up, all these lunar eclipses line up in that month, either the 1st or 7th, every single one perfectly. And so, for example, this year, in the 1st month and the 8th day, there was a lunar eclipse. Okay? Then, in the 7th month, there will be a lunar eclipse. See that? And that same thing goes back all the way back to 2014. So that's when we're looking at here. 2014, 2014, 2015, 2015. Then, this is the one that happened right here in the 1st month, 2016. And then there's another one that's going to happen in the fall of the 7th month right here. And that completes the cycle. So now you have 6 lunar eclipses falling on the 1st and 7th month. Perfectly. Okay? Now, you need the Enoch calendar to do that. The lunar calendar, you can't do that because you have a leap month. All right? So you see this pattern. Now, what happens with Esthers' year is you see solar, lunar, right? Then you have lunar, solar. So then what you have is a lunar eclipse preceding a solar eclipse. And a lunar eclipse preceding a solar eclipse. This happens 3 times. The middle point is Purim, lined up perfectly on the Enoch calendar as the middle point. This is the 12th month and 15th day. So then what you do is you backtrack that point, Purim, 182 days. Now, remember, it was 180 days, but those are prophetic days. In the Enoch calendar, you either skip or you add the solar days. Each one of these is a solar day. There's 1 solar day in every season. See that? Those are the yellow when you get your calendar. Okay? So, now what you have is 182 days back from the center point right here, Purim, is you have the Esthers' year begins right here. The day before it, the sign is the Star of Bethlehem. Okay? And here's that solar eclipse. And there's also a lunar eclipse. Remember, lunar eclipse, solar eclipse, 2 weeks before. And then you have the same thing here. Here's the solar eclipse, and here's the lunar eclipse. All right? So there we can see clearly that that gives us this year, 1 year to get ready. Esther has 1 year to get ready, okay? And then it's the 7th year before the king. So where that appears here is right here. So this is the solar eclipse, and Esther's year begins here. And then this is the 7th year, and she has 1 year to get ready. Okay? So this is this cycle, guys, where I've showed you that the king reigns 3.5 years, then you have the seals 3.5 years, and the trumpets. So then what would happen is this whole cycle is 7 years, right? So that's began in 2010. Then there's another 7 years. That begins in 2017. That would be year 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And those would be the Great Tribulation. But guys, what we're doing right here is we're focusing on the importance of the blood moons and the Enoch calendar and Esther's year preparation to show you the king reigning, okay? So I may have spoken quickly, but you can pause this and go back. Don't just assume you understand everything at the first. But remember, the Star of Bethlehem, August 27, 2016. The woman clothed with the sun, that's September 22nd, 2017. These are the enormous signs pointing to the Lord's return, okay? So God bless you guys, and let me know. I'm not online much, but when I do, I'll answer any questions, okay? All right, God bless.